Open two browser tabs right now on two different devices if you have them. Search the exact same flight in both. There's a real chance you'll see two different prices. Same route, same date, same seat, different number. That's not a glitch. That's the business model. You already know the free apps on your phone aren't really free. They're funded by an ad auction that happens in the time it takes a page to load. What most people don't realize is that the exact same profile, your browsing habits, your device, your location, even how many times you've looked at something, follows you off the app and into every price you're ever shown online. This is how that works, and how to spot it before it costs you money. This is the fine print. Let's start with the basic version of this because it's older than the internet. Airlines have adjusted seat prices in real time for decades based on how full a flight is, how close the departure date is, and even the day of the week you're searching. But now the pricing engine has more to work with than just seats and dates. It has you. Your device tells the site whether you're on a $200 Android or the newest iPhone. Some travel and retail sites have openly tested showing higher prices to Mac and iPhone users, on the theory that those shoppers tend to be less price-sensitive and more likely to buy without shopping around. Your location matters too. A hotel search run from a wealthier zip code can return different results than the exact same search run from 3 blocks away, even down to which rooms show up as available. Even your connection speed can be a signal. Slower networks sometimes get simplified pages with fewer discount options surfaced. None of this requires anyone to know your name. It just requires a browser fingerprint. Your fingerprint is the unique combination of your screen size, your fonts, your time zone, your browser version, your battery level, and dozens of other smaller settings you never think about. Put those together, and a site can recognize you again without a single cookie or login. That's why clearing your cookies doesn't always reset the price. The fingerprint stayed the same. So did what the algorithm thinks you'll pay. This is where it gets more aggressive. The searching itself can raise the price. Some travel booking sites have been shown to nudge prices up the more times you look at the same listing, sometimes within the same afternoon. The logic is simple, even if it feels a little cold. Repeated interest reads as intent to buy, and intent to buy is worth more money to whoever's selling. So the scarcity messaging you see, only 2 left, price may increase soon, isn't always lying to you about supply. Sometimes it's telling you the truth about a system that's already reacting to you personally. None of this is officially called the customer profile from the ad auction. It goes by softer names: dynamic pricing, personalization, real-time optimization. But it draws from the same well, the same trackers, the same brokers, the same profile built one click at a time. The data broker that sold your profile to an ad exchange last week can turn around and sell a version of that same profile to a retailer's pricing engine this week, or an airline's or an insurer's. It's the same customer, just a different buyer. So who actually pays more? The research points in a consistent direction. Studies on online pricing have repeatedly found that shoppers in higher income areas are shown higher prices on average for the same goods. Everything from groceries to electronics to home services. That sounds almost fair, until you notice the flip side. Some of that same research has found stores locate their physical discount outlets farther away from lower income and minority neighborhoods, even in cases where demand for a discount is just as high or higher. So the discount isn't evenly available. It's a matter of geography. Online, that geography problem doesn't disappear. It just becomes a zip code in a database instead of a bus ride. Insurance pricing runs on a related but separate logic, and it's one of the most heavily studied and most heavily disputed versions of this whole system. Investigations into car insurance pricing have found people in majority-minority neighborhoods sometimes pay more than people in other neighborhoods with a similar or even lower risk of accidents. Same risk on paper, different price on the screen. Insurers say their models price risk, not race or zip code directly. But when a model is trained on decades of historical claims data, it can absorb the old patterns of where money was and wasn't spent, where claims were denied, where payouts ran higher, where risk was assumed instead of measured, and just keep repeating those patterns with a straight face. This is the part regulators keep circling back to. Not that a company sat down one day and decided to charge one group more on purpose, but that an automated system left alone can quietly land in the same place anyway, which makes it harder to catch and harder to prove. Retail does its own version of this with something called price steering. Instead of changing the price you see, a site changes which products it shows you first, and in what order and how many pages down the cheaper options end up. If your profile looks like a shopper who buys premium brands, the premium brands are what load first. You were never technically shown a higher price for the same exact item. You were just never shown the cheaper item at all, so you never knew to compare. That's a much quieter kind of steering, and it's a lot harder to screenshot as evidence because on paper nothing was ever technically hidden. None of this means you're powerless here. You just have to break the pattern the algorithm expects. First move, open a private or incognito window before you search anything you plan to buy. It won't erase your fingerprint completely, but it clears cookies and login history, which removes some of the easiest signals to use against you. Second move, check the same search on your phone and on a computer, and on more than one browser if you can. Different devices genuinely can return different results, so comparing across them works a lot like getting a second opinion before you commit to anything. Third move, don't keep researching the exact same flight or hotel over and over on the same device. If you want to track a price over days, use a price-tracking browser extension or a dedicated tool instead of manually refreshing the page yourself. Refreshing yourself can be the exact signal that nudges the price up. Fourth move, clear cookies and location permissions periodically, and consider a VPN for anything genuinely price-sensitive, like flights or hotel stays. Changing your apparent location can sometimes surface a different price tier entirely. That's how uneven this system really is. Fifth move, for big purchases, flights, insurance, appliances, anything over a couple $100, get quotes from at least 2 unrelated sources before you commit. A second unrelated source is the simplest way to catch a price that was quietly built around you. None of these steps require technical skill or special software. They just require knowing the system is reacting to you personally in the first place and acting like it. That's really the whole theme of this channel. The fine print isn't hidden because it's complicated to understand. It's hidden because almost nobody ever goes looking for it in the first place. Free apps taught the algorithm what you click on. Dynamic pricing is just that same lesson, cashed in at checkout. So next time a price feels a little too specific to you, a little too convenient, or a little too urgent, that instinct is worth trusting. Open a second tab, check it on a second device, wait a day if you can. The price that survives all 3 checks is probably the real one. If this was useful, the next one goes even further. The specific companies buying and selling your profile behind all of this, how they trade it back and forth without ever telling you, and what's actually written in the paperwork you agreed to the moment you clicked accept. See you in the next one.